Okay, this is the part that people may hate, but I love wiring. I just think it's really fun, and it's super simple if you look at it logically. And what we're going to do is we're going to actually show you how to wire these signal lights so they're running lights and signal lights, which is really cool because you need all the light you can on the back end. So the first things first, we need to grab our rear fender, and we're going to go ahead and cut about 12 inches or 300 millimeters off from this main wire coming out of the fender there. It's the one with the white connector on it. So go ahead and cut that off. And then we're going to go ahead and remove the wires on the stock signal lights. And those are about 10 inches or so of those. So you'll be cutting that one and this one from these wires coming out of the lights. These are the ones with the square connectors on them. Okay, we're going to take our scissors and we're going to cut about 3 inches off the ends of these shieldings on these wires. So go ahead and carefully cut that on the big wire. Go ahead and cut that off. Just slice it up there like that, and then slide it off the wires so you can expose the wires. Be careful on that, you don't want to cut the wires. And then on these, just slide the tubes off, cut them, and then slide them back on. So we want to expose these ends just like this. Now, if you'll notice here that I've changed out the lenses on my signal lights to red, these were the amber ones. If you live in America, and we're going to run these as running lights and signals, then I think technically they're supposed to be red in the back. Amber in the front, red in the back. Now, if you do live in a country where you have to run the amber or you cannot run the lights as running lights, then you'll want to stay with the amber. So you may want to check your laws on that. Okay, the next step, go ahead and change those, and then the next step would be to slide these rubber tubes over the wires here. Just slide those over the wires and just leave them about right there for now. Okay, now this is really important that we do this correctly because we want to start with the left signal light, and you'll notice this is the smooth side with the lens facing left. So set this light on your bench or your table just exactly like this, and then we're going to fasten the longer wires to the left side. Okay, now the first and most important wire is the brown. The brown wire will be the ground. So the black and white wire coming out of the signal light will butt splice to the brown wire, 12-inch wire. Okay, if you'll notice, I made a piece of paper. So there again, this is really important. So black and white to brown. That's really important. Go ahead and butt splice that one first. Now go ahead and butt splice the red to red and black to black. There again, most important is the black and white to brown. Okay, in your kit we give you the really high quality heat shrink tubing. This has adhesive on the inside too, which is really nice, which makes it really nice if you don't get a super good butt splice. So anyway, go ahead and cut about 2-inch pieces, and then you'll slide them over the wires and carefully heat them up and shrink them over the butt splicers. You'll notice I've done the left light here with the long wires, and then I went ahead and did the same exact thing with the right signal light. Remember, most important, black and white to brown, black to black, red to red. Go ahead and heat shrink those also. And then we're about ready to go ahead and finish these signal lights up. Now we want to go ahead and put the female connectors, and this is the female connector. Oh, and by the way, you crimp it up to the top of this little shoulder right here. That's where you crimp it. So give it a real good crimp when you crimp it onto the wires. So anyway, we want to crimp the female connectors to the brown wires. You notice I stripped about 3/8 of an inch off before I slide it in. And make sure you get a real good crimp. So brown, female. I'll write that down for you. Now we're going to go ahead and put the male connectors on the red and the black wires. I'll show you how that works. Okay, there again, you've got the male connector. Go ahead and crimp it right at the shoulder right there. Just at that shoulder, give it a good crimp. And after you crimp these, make sure that you've got a real good connection. Give them a good tug, because you don't want these to come off later. You just give them a real good tug, make sure you got a real good crimp. Once you get that done, we're ready to plug these into the bike. Go ahead and grab this cable that came from the bike. It's the one with the white connector that has the wires coming out. It's a gray, black and white, and white with black stripe. Okay, in your kit you received a brown three-way connector. It has the male connectors on the end. What we're going to do is we're going to fasten the brown three-way to the black and white ground wire. This is really important. It's the same as when we hooked up the signal light wires. This is the most important step, so pay real close attention. I'm going to put that in front of you there just to remind you. So black and white to brown. That's really important. Okay, go ahead and slide the heat shrink on. There again, about 2 inches of heat shrink will do her. Go ahead and slide that over the black and white wire. And then we'll go ahead and plug this into the butt splicer. And we're going to butt splice this, and then we can heat shrink it after. Okay, now we're going to do the black three-way connector with the female ends on it. And that attaches to the gray wire from the bike. There again, the gray wire. The black and white wire we'll save for later. So gray to black. Go ahead and slide the heat shrink on first, butt splice it, and then put the heat shrink on. The last wire remaining on the main harness is your black, or white with black stripes. That's white with black stripes will fasten to the red wire. So go ahead and butt splice the red wire to that white with black stripes. Go ahead and butt splice it, heat shrink it, and then the last thing you'll do is apply the female connector to the end. You can go ahead and trim the excess off and then make it so it's about the same length as these. So most important, female connector on that one. The only male connectors on this are the grounds. Oh, by the way, this is your brake light wire. Okay, I racked my brain to see how we could hook these up without getting too confused, because Suzuki, what they did is they used a black wire for both the positive and the negative on these, so I don't know, which one is which, and you won't know either. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and put female connectors on the ends of all these wires. Now these are the wires with the square connectors. So go ahead and put female connectors on all of these, and then what we're going to do after we get these in the bike, we're going to just cut one off and leave it undone when we get it finished. So I'll show you how to do that. There again, give them a good pull. Make sure they're good crimps. I'm going to show you how these lights mount on the motorcycle. I'm going to do that on the bench just because it's a little easier to show it clearly. Okay, the way this works is you want to back off the nut and the washer, and have a little gap there between the insulations so you can just see the wires. Now the way we designed this is you just slide the wires up into that slot, like that. Then you shove the light in, and then that'll leave the nut and the lock washer on this side. I'm going to go, watch the next segment because I'm going to show you how to tighten this up. We don't want to get too carried away. Okay, use a 17mm wrench. You can go ahead and snug them up. You'll feel the lock washer compress, and then they'll all of a sudden get tight. So you can give them a little bit of a snug there. And that should lock them in pretty good. Just don't get too carried away because this is a hollow aluminum stud here. You could break that off if you get too carried away with the wrench. Okay, after you tighten them up, then what you can go ahead and do is slide this insulation, slide the small first and then the large. You can slide that tube over the threads like that. And then you can bend that back, and once you wire tie it in there, that's going to look nice, and it'll protect keep from getting moisture and stuff in there, and it'll look nice too when you look back behind the bike. So there you have it. We'll go ahead and install these lights on the bike. Okay, I've mounted the lights on the bike. You'll notice this is the smooth side up, and this is the one that has the long wire coming out. So we're going to run this up this left side, and then the short wire goes on this side. Then we're going to have to remove the toolkit. We can't run that in there because we're going to need the room for the wires. Plus we wouldn't be able to get that too easily anyway. I wire tied the wires under the bike here using these two holes for the wire ties, just like I showed you on the previous video. And then I ran the wires under the frame right here. So run them along under here and then under this round bar right here. Same on both sides. Run those under there. Then I'll show you how these go. If you notice, I ran the signal wires from the left side. I ran these under these big bundle of wires right here. I ran them underneath that. And then what I did is I plugged in the white connector. This is that wire, the wire harness that you actually made earlier, and I'm going to run that under these wires here too. So basically I'm going to loop these around under this area here and out in this area. That way we can what we want to do is we kind of want to make this nice and clean when we hook all these wires up. So run those under there and up front, and then we'll continue on. Next I plug the other square connectors together. This is the gray connector, and this is the black. So go ahead and plug those in, and then we're also going to run those wires underneath this bundle of wires and over with the rest of the wires over here. What we're trying to do, like I said, is just keep this kind of neat and tidy. Now that everything's run under these big wires right here, I'm going to go ahead and put a wire tie right there. You don't need to tighten it too tight. Just put a wire tie around there and kind of snug it up a little bit. And we'll trim this end off. We want to just keep these wires kind of up front here so they kind of stay underneath and look nice and clean right there. Now we can start plugging the wires into the harness here. Okay, remember the brown wires are that's the grounds, and then the black wires are keyed power. In other words, when you turn the key on, these come on. So right now what we're going to do is we're going to use 2 of the brown and 2 of the black, and we're going to start plugging wires into those. Okay, you'll notice I got brown to brown, brown to brown. This is the left and this is the right signal light. There's one extra, we're going to use that for the tail light later on. And then on the 3-way black connector, the same thing. We've got black to black and black to black, and then there's one black left over there. So go ahead, and this is the right and left signal light. Okay, you'll notice that we have the black, or the white with the black stripes with the red wire coming out with the female connector. Okay, don't worry about that. That's for our brake light, so we won't use that right now. Okay, the ones we want to concentrate on now are the 2 wires that are left over from the signal lights. So grab those, and then we'll show you how to hook those up. Go ahead and turn your key on, and let's see if these 2 lights light up. Okay, there you have it. Both lights are lit. So what we want to do is we want to go ahead and hook up the signal lights now. Let's get these signal lights flashing. Okay, grab your black connector. It's the black one. There's 2, a black and a gray. It's the black square one, and we're going to run these 2 wires through here like this so we can expose the 2 female connectors. And then we have the black or the red wire from the signal light on the right side. This is the right side signal light. Now what we're going to do, we're going to go ahead and turn the key on, and we're going to hit the right signal light flasher on the handlebar. So turn that on, and then what we want to do, we want to plug this in either one of these. Just plug that in. Okay, now it's not flashing, so that's the wrong one. So I'm going to plug it into the other one. Okay, and there it is. It's flashing. Okay, so let's plug that in. Then what we're going to do, we're going to go ahead and snip this other one off. Let's just cut that one off. That's just an extra ground wire, so by leaving that exposed is not going to hurt anything. Okay, so that one's flashing. Now if it flashes fast, it's probably because you don't have your fronts hooked up yet. Let's do the left side. The last one we're going to do now is the small gray connector. So follow that wire around, and there's the 2 pigtails from that, the females. And then here's the red wire from the left signal light. So do the same thing. Turn the switch on the left side. Let's go ahead and plug this in. Nothing happens on that one. And it flashes on that one. Okay, so we'll plug that one in. And then let's go ahead and snip the one that we're not using. Let's snip that one off. Okay, now the nice thing about this is if you screwed up and you got them backwards, all you'd have to do is just unplug the gray and the black and plug them in the other way. You can have a gray to black, black to gray. It doesn't matter because the flashers will still work and the connectors are basically the same. So let's go ahead and do that, and then we'll kind of just tuck these in temporarily, and then just one quick note too, if you do live in Australia or somewhere where you can't run a running light, you can unplug the black wires that do the running lights on your signals. In some countries like Australia, for some strange reason, you can't run them as running lights, just signals only. So in that case, just unplug the black connectors, and then they'll just be flashers only. There you have it for now. Okay, what we're going to do, we're going to go ahead and continue on, and then we're going to plug these wires in from the tail light here when we get that installed.